The number one question I get asked from loved ones and people who know me is, what do you do all day? I've worked in costume production for the past few years. Most of my jobs are gig jobs, but I have a primary job at a theater working with dancers. All costume jobs are slightly different, but my job here consists mostly of day work and show work. During the show, my main job is to dress the performers. We also will handle any emergencies if things break, pop, tear, or ultimately don't fit. We have to think on our feet and be really quick because we have to get the performers on stage. But the day work is what compromises most of my day. We have various seasons which all involve different shows. Most of the clips here are from the holiday season, as the show is the exact same every day for about 6 weeks. But usually we do a lot more switching around and have a lot of different costumes and shows that we are working on. I spend a lot of the day sewing, even though I'm technically not a stitcher. That's a different job. The performers are dancers, which means that they're going to sweat a lot. And we have to sew pit pads into every single costume that's worn if the costume allows. Usually if it's thick enough and not too sheer, there's going to be pit pads in it, and the bigger the show, the more pit pads. Sometimes we'll spend an entire 4-hour period just sewing in pit pads. And before we take things to dry cleaning, we will take these out and wash them and do it again. This is just to protect the costumes from, again, sweat stains and general wear and tear, and also make them a little more hygienic. When we change out a show, we have to roll racks, and we usually do this, again, before dry cleaning, but also if we just have to transfer headpieces or anything that the performers or us might need. We'll transfer things to the storeroom, we'll transfer things to a van to go away to dry cleaning, we'll transfer them back, we'll transfer them from upstairs, downstairs, switch things out. This is the most physical part of the job. Because these are costumes and not fashion garments, everything has to be made sturdy, and a lot of times things will pop, rip, and tear because the dancers are being lifted up, they're rolling on the ground, or sometimes even just for their own comfort, they're pulling on the costumes. We take time to check over any rips or tears and repair any beadwork, surface work, and also the work on the inside of the garments too. Straps are very important, mostly because if a strap breaks, it would be a completely different kind of show. That's not the kind of show that we're doing. So we have to make sure that they are really, really secure. And even though the performers have fittings, sometimes things feel a little too loose or a little too tight. So we'll change out or lengthen or shorten as needed. We also have to paint the straps. We have various pancakes, which is a type of makeup that the dancers use, and we use sponges and paint all of the straps. Again, if it's a really big show, we can spend almost an hour just painting straps. We also do headpiece retrieval, counting, packing, and distributing. Most, not all, but most pieces come with some sort of headpiece, be it a little crown, a little hat, or just something that they pin on. We have to make sure that they are easy to find. Now, a lot of times, this is the thing that gets shared the most. There are shows where every performer has their own headpiece, but for the bigger shows and the shows where we're doing it back to back to back, they switch out the dancers a little bit more, which means they have to share headpieces. These dancers have a lot going on and they don't always remember or have the time to put their headpieces back where they found them. So we'll go around to dressing rooms, sometimes even backstage, find all the headpieces, make sure we have a correct count, and then we'll distribute them either back to the same person or to the next person that's going to be wearing them. This isn't the most stressful part of the job, but sometimes it can be a little bit of a wild goose chase, just trying to find where a headpiece is, especially if somebody doesn't remember or if it gets lost. There have been times when a dancer is about to go on stage in 20 minutes and we don't have a headpiece and we are running around frantically looking for said headpiece. So we try to make sure we do this at the end of the night if it's going to be the same show, or at least that the girls let us know where they left their headpieces. It's also our job to make sure that the costumes are hanging correctly. Ideally, most dancers would put their costumes back in a nice, organized manner, but understandably, when they come off stage, the last thing they're worried about is hanging up a costume correctly, especially if they have to run on and do another number, or if they just want to go home and have been dancing all day. So we will take the time and hang up costumes properly. During holiday season, we have this number where we have snow falling from the sky. It's really pieces of paper, but these little pieces of paper get everywhere. I even find them in my apartment sometimes, so we'll take the time to shake out the dresses and make sure to remove any snow before the next performance. But generally, we also do clean the garments. Not deep cleaning, but if there's makeup, because the performers wear a lot of makeup, even sometimes just to cover tattoos, the makeup will get all over the dresses, so we make sure to pay attention and spot clean if there's any dingy looking makeup spots. Almost every single day, unless it's a very, very, very simple number, we're steaming and ironing. Especially when a show is just coming out of storage, it tends to look really deflated and sad, or if something has just been washed and things are really wrinkled and kind of ruffled in the wrong way, they'll just look not as nice and crisp. So we'll take the time to steam out ruffles, steam out little flowers or bows that may be adorning the costumes, laying down lace and making sure it's sitting flat, just so that they can go on stage looking as best as they can. Also, a really kind of weird, specific part of the job is turning elastics. If you think about wearing a bodysuit or even a waistband elastic, sometimes it can kind of get turned from washing or wearing. And these dancers wear a lot of leotards or bodysuits, things that have to cling to their legs. So we take the time to unturn all of the elastics so that they're sitting flat on their bodies. Otherwise, it tends to look weird or feel really uncomfortable. We also take time to just repair any holes, any broken swing tacks, any fabric that's rotting. Our job is really to maintain the upkeep of these costumes as a whole department. These costumes tend to be really, really old, some even over 20 years old. Some of them are technically vintage costumes, and so we have to keep them lasting very long.
Okay.
New costumes for a show only get made every once in a while, so we have to keep them looking nice, and they do go through a lot of wear and tear, especially if we're doing a lot of shows. Again, a holiday season, we do the same show every day, sometimes twice a day, back to back, and so these costumes are getting worn a lot, and we just have to check over all of them and make sure nothing is falling apart. Also, the biggest part of our job and the most important part of our job is making sure that the performers feel comfortable. So if things need to be tighter or looser, we'll add bars, add panels, take in costumes. A lot of these costumes, again, aren't clothing, so they're going to be sometimes a little itchy or uncomfortable, and they have to wear them. So there was this one crazy costume where the dancers were supposed to be like trees, and they kept getting cut from the tree branches. So I had to go around all the costumes and cover them with hot glue just so that it would be a smoother surface if it did rub against the skin. After we spend about 4 to even 6 hours doing this, and we'll pause to get performers dressed for rehearsal or to just do quick fittings if they don't have time to do a full-on fitting, we'll prep for the show and then get the performers ready for the night. Honestly, this was just the footage that I was able to capture. It feels like there's so much more that we do that I can't always film or record or get a moment of, but our job is really special, and it's so funny to think about. This is just one department and I'm one person that's helping put together a massive show. There are so many other departments that go into putting on something that you see, whether it be lighting, stagehands, hair and makeup, you name it. There's so many people that come together to put on a show. So thanks for taking the time to watch what I do in a day's work.